She was lying there, thinner than I remembered, her eyes sunken and trembling hands reaching for mine.
Please come back.
Just once. Her voice cracked, weighed down by more than just sickness. It was the first time I'd heard from her in years, and yet, all it took was one sentence to bring the storm of memories crashing back. I stared at her, feeling the ache of every mile I had put between us. This wasn't just about a sick mother pleading for her daughter. This was about everything I had fought to escape. The walls of that house, our house, were soaked in silence, control, and fear. Where I came from, girls stopped being girls the moment they bled. No dreams, no questions, just a wedding. Just a man older than your father, waiting to own you. They called it tradition. I called it a cage. The day it happened to me, I remember her face, not of concern, but urgency. Like she had been waiting, hoping. I was 13. She said it softly. You're ready now. Ready? For what? For giving up everything I hadn't even had the chance to want? I got out. Somehow. And for years, I rebuilt myself in pieces, new name, new city, new life. I told myself I'd never look back, that the past was buried. But here she was, dragging it out with a whisper and a cough. And I hated how, even now, a part of me wanted to go. Not for her, but for the girl I used to be. The one who never got to speak. Growing up in that neighborhood, behind closed doors that all looked the same, there was a rule no one ever wrote down but every girl knew by heart. The moment you got your period, your time was up. You'd go from school to stove to someone's bed, just like your mother, and her mother before her. They called it honor, they called it tradition, but it was a life sentence. I learned to fear food. Not because we didn't have enough, but because I knew what would happen if my body changed too fast. I started hiding rice in napkins, pretending I'd already eaten. I'd pour milk down the sink when no one was looking. I tied scarves tight around my chest at night, whispering to myself, not yet, not yet. But hunger wasn't enough. My cousin Mayim was barely 14 when her name was whispered with a man 3 times her age. He owned a liquor store and had been married twice before. The first wife ran away. The second died. No one asked questions. They just told Mayim how lucky she was. I remember her face the night they gave her the bangles. She didn't smile, just stared at her wrists like they were shackles.
We weren't allowed to cry.
Crying meant you were ungrateful. This is how girls become women, my aunt would say, as she held Mayim down and scrubbed her face raw with whitening creams that burned her skin. You'll thank me when your husband sees how fair you are. I saw the scars. I saw the way she flinched when someone touched her arms that bore the marks of belts, of hot spoons, of something they called training. I was 9 the first time they burned me. I spilled tea in front of guests. My mother smiled, excused herself, and took me to the kitchen. The metal ladle left a mark on my back that stayed for weeks. Later, she held me and said, "Better I do it than your husband." And I believed it. That was the most twisted part. I thought this was normal. That suffering was the path to worthiness. That obedience was safety. Then something happened. I was 12, sitting in class at school, and our teacher handed out a pamphlet about child rights. I wasn't even reading it seriously, just flipping through. And then I saw it. Child marriage is illegal in the United States. I felt something shift. Like the ground beneath me cracked just a little. I raised my hand and asked her, "Even if the parents agree?" She looked confused.
Yes.
No one under 18 can be married legally without a court's approval. Even then, it's rare. And definitely not under 16. My ears rang. I went home that day and stared at the family photos. All those little girls dressed up like brides. No one ever asked if it was legal. No one cared. But I did. Because if it was illegal, then maybe, just maybe, what was happening to us wasn't fate. Maybe it was wrong. That night, I looked at my mother with new eyes. I saw the fear behind her rules, the way she clung to culture, like it was a lifeline. But fear wasn't a reason to keep bleeding your daughters. I didn't have a plan yet, but I had something else, doubt. And that was the first thing they never taught us to survive. I wasn't supposed to be in the drawer. Mrs. Callahan had asked me to grab extra worksheets from her desk, but the top drawer stuck, and when I finally yanked it open, a folder spilled out. Bright red, labeled, mandated reporting and student rights. My eyes locked onto a page inside. It was just one sentence that stopped everything. Any adult aware of child abuse is required by law to report it. I froze. My heart thudded in my ears. Abuse. That word had always sounded so far away, like something you'd see on TV or hear about from a kid in foster care. Not something that could possibly describe our homes, our mothers, our training. I slipped the pamphlet into my backpack and spent the next week reading it under a blanket with a flashlight, heart racing at every creak of the floorboards outside my door. It had phone numbers. It had steps. It had laws. There it was in black and white: forced marriage underage, physical discipline that leaves marks, psychological control. I underlined them in red pen, mouthing each phrase until I had them memorized. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but for the first time, I had language for what was happening to us. And with language came power. I started with my cousins. Late at night, after everyone had gone to sleep, we'd meet behind the shed in my backyard with a flashlight and whisper our plans. We called it the Wife Skills Group. It was supposed to be a joke, a way to mock what the aunties used to say when they slapped our hands away from books and said, "Learn how to cook instead. That's a real wife skill." But our skills were different. We taught each other how to fake coughs during home visits, how to answer questions in code. We practiced what to say to a nurse, a counselor, a police officer. Say this: "I'm scared to go home." Say, "I don't feel safe." Say, "I need to talk to someone alone." We drilled each other until we could say it without our voices shaking. Mayam was the first to test it. She told the school nurse about the man she was being promised to. She said it in a whisper, barely louder than a breath. They pulled her into the office and called Child Protective Services. The aunties cried and called it betrayal. I called it a miracle. She stayed with a foster family for a while. They weren't perfect, but they didn't hurt her. She got a journal, started drawing again. That was hope. After that, more girls joined. Quietly, carefully. I showed them how to spot the signs posted in school bathrooms, the ones that had hotlines and text numbers. We had phone numbers in our socks, safety pins in our hijabs. We started to believe. Not just an escape, but in something more dangerous. In a future we could choose. At home, nothing had changed. The lashes, the creams, the lectures, they continued. But we were different. We had each other. We had a plan. And underneath all the fear, there was something blooming in us that we weren't supposed to have. We had resistance. It happened on a Monday. I remember because I had gym class and I was wearing light gray pants. The stain bloomed like a secret trying to break free. I ran to the nurse's office, cold and shaking, hoping maybe it wasn't real.
But it was.
When I got home, my mother already knew. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She didn't bring tea or comfort me like other girls' moms did. She just stood there, a strange gleam in her eyes, and said, "Finally." The next night, Hamid's name was spoken like a blessing. "He's been waiting for you to grow up," my father said with a proud smile, like he was handing off a prized possession. Hamid was 35, owned a small import business. His first wife had disappeared, gone back to Pakistan, they said, but no one ever explained why she left her 2 children behind. I barely heard the rest. The room was spinning. I kept my hands folded neatly in my lap, nodding when they looked at me, like I was already disappearing from my own body. That night, I didn't cry. I packed a small plastic notebook, the one where we had written everything. The laws. The hotline numbers.
The steps.
Anna was 14. Her name had just started getting tossed around in the living room, paired with a man we'd only seen once, someone who never smiled. She was next. I slipped her the notebook during Quran class. No words.
Just a glance.
She nodded. That was enough. I don't know what she said exactly, only that it worked. 2 days later, Child Protective Services showed up at her school. They asked questions. She answered. They took her.
She didn't even get to pack.
The fallout was immediate. The aunties wailed. Her mother tore her scarf in front of the neighbors, screaming about betrayal, dishonor. And then it came my name. Someone had found the notebook copy I forgot to hide, shoved between my mattress and bed frame. My initials were there in my handwriting. I came home to silence. Not the calm kind. The heavy, deadly kind. My father was waiting in the living room. My mother didn't speak. "The wedding is next week," he said, voice low. "Enough nonsense. It's already been delayed too long." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them they were the ones who were wrong. But my tongue was frozen. I just nodded and went to my room. I knew there would be no second chance. That night, I packed a grocery bag with whatever I could carry. I changed into jeans I'd hidden under the floorboard, clothes my mother never allowed me to wear. I opened the bathroom window and stared into the dark. It wasn't far to the alley, but it felt like the edge of a cliff. I heard my father's voice downstairs, low and bitter, talking about shame and fixing things. I climbed up onto the toilet, pushed the window open, and slid through. My leg caught on the edge and tore, but I didn't stop. My feet hit the trash bin below, then the pavement. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't have a plan for where to go, not really. But I had a folded scrap of paper with a number on it. A number that could save a girl. And for the first time, I was ready to use it. The bus station was colder than I expected, even in summer. I used the last of the crumpled dollars I had to buy a ticket to anywhere that sounded far enough. It wasn't courage that kept me from turning back. It was knowing exactly what I'd be returning to. I held the ticket so tightly in my hand the ink started to smudge. When I got off, I walked straight to the courthouse, the one address I remembered from the hotline recording. The security guard looked at me strangely, a teenage girl with a backpack and a torn-up grocery bag, but he let me through. I asked for a protective order. I didn't even fully understand what that meant. I just knew it was supposed to keep them from dragging me back. They gave me forms, asked me questions I wasn't ready for. "Are you in danger? Are you being forced into marriage? Has anyone hit you?" I answered yes, yes, yes. But something in the clerk's eyes told me it wasn't going to be enough. A few hours later, the judge denied my shelter request. Said there wasn't enough immediate evidence of physical harm. Said I had run away during a disagreement. Like this was about a curfew. I walked out into the sun with my heart sinking, no plan left. That's when I saw her, Ms. Rodriguez, my old English teacher. I don't know how she found me or why she was even there, but the moment she saw me, she grabbed my shoulders like she already knew. "I've been waiting for this," she said. "Let's go." We didn't go to a shelter. We went to her apartment. She called CPS, gave them her own statement. Then she sat down across from me and rolled up her sleeve. Thin, white lines ran across her arm. "You're not the only one," she whispered. "We don't talk about these scars, but we recognize them." I stayed with her for 2 nights. On the 3rd day, my father showed up with police. He came prepared. Calm voice. Bags of fake prescriptions. Said I had a mental illness. Said I ran away because I stopped taking my meds. Said they had papers. Ms. Rodriguez didn't flinch. She stepped in front of me and said, "She's not going anywhere without a court order." So, we went to court. The room felt like a trap. My father wore a concerned expression, told the judge he only wanted to protect me, called me unstable, rebellious, said I had been poisoned by bad influences. That's when Ms. Rodriguez pulled out my essays. The ones I'd written in class under vague prompts. Describe a place you'd never return to. Tell a story only you can tell. She'd saved them. In those pages were hidden meanings, careful metaphors, silent cries written between lines of fiction. She handed them to the judge like evidence. Because they were. Then came the twist no one saw coming. Fatima, Hamid's first wife. She walked into the courtroom like a storm. CPS had contacted her after Anna's case brought everything to light. She had been in hiding for years, afraid of retaliation. But something about my case pulled her in. She stood before the judge and said, clearly, "He threatened to kill me if I didn't obey.
He beat my son."
I left because I knew the next girl wouldn't survive him. The courtroom fell silent. No one looked at my father. Not even him. That day, the protective order was granted. CPS moved me into a temporary foster home. Hamid's business was flagged for investigation. I wasn't safe yet, not fully, but I was finally seen. And being seen, it was the beginning of everything. Theodora opened the door in fuzzy socks and a sweatshirt that read, "Not today, patriarchy." She wasn't what I expected from a safe house liaison. Older, yes, but warm in a way that didn't ask for anything. She handed me a blanket, a grilled cheese sandwich, and a clean notebook. "You're not just safe here," she said. "You're seen. That's different." Her house was small but full of light. Plants in every window. Shelves lined with books about resistance, healing, and survival. There was even a whiteboard on the fridge that read, "What do you want to do next?" For the first time, no one was telling me who I had to be. I slept with the door open, by choice. I set alarms to wake up early, not because someone forced me, but because I wanted to start planning. I wanted to help more girls like Anna, like me. But peace doesn't go unnoticed. Within a week, the manipulation began. My cousin messaged me through an old art account. "Ani says come home. They're sorry. You'll be treated better." A few hours later, a gift basket arrived at Theodora's door, full of my favorite snacks, gold bangles tucked inside. Then came the comments under my photos. "She's lying for attention. She's always been dramatic. She ran away for a boy." One cousin made a whole account just to post old pictures of me with captions like "rebel" or "disgrace." My mother posted a crying video, praying for me to come back, telling the world her daughter had been stolen by bad women who hate family. Then the surveillance began. A car was parked outside Theodora's house for 2 days. My old youth group leader tried to drop off food. Someone hacked into my school email. But by then, I wasn't alone. Ms. Rodriguez printed flyers with QR codes leading to real legal resources and translated hotline numbers. We left them in library books, bathroom stalls, nail salons. Theodora helped build a digital guide, coded language for reaching out safely, emoji keys that explained how to ask for help without raising suspicion. We uploaded it to group chats that looked like recipe swaps or hijab tutorials. At school, I started a lunchtime club under the name Girls in Transition. The administration thought it was about college applications. Inside, we shared stories, tools, and backup plans. Every girl who joined promised to teach at least one more. Within months, we were a network. Not loud, not public, but strong. We had drop points in 3 neighborhoods. 1 contact in the mosque. 2 teachers. A nurse. Every time someone said, "You're just making your family look bad," I wanted to scream no. I'm trying to make sure our girls live long enough to have a family they choose. My father posted a video saying I had been brainwashed by white liberals. My uncle wrote an article calling me a homewrecker. And still more girls came. They found us in quiet ways. A scribbled note. A lip gloss tube with a SIM card. A broken bracelet passed during prayer. The smear campaigns kept coming, but now we had an answer. Not in rage, but in reach. We didn't just argue, we offered exits. We weren't running anymore. We were building. Every pamphlet we placed, every message we translated, every whispered name we protected, it all stitched together a map of survival. And we knew one thing for certain. They might control the rules in their houses. But out here, we had each other. The messages started coming faster. "I think my uncle is taking me to Pakistan next week." My mom found the hotline number in my drawer. They said if I don't marry him, I'll be sent to learn respect with my grandmother. Each message felt like a countdown. And then came Samira. She was 16, quiet, and always careful. Her texts were clipped and cautious, like someone was watching her every word. We knew her family was planning something, but she didn't know what. Until they showed up at her school with packed bags and a ticket to Dubai. She had no time. We scrambled. Theodora called the hotline, CPS, and even the courthouse. I rushed there with Ms. Rodriguez, who acted like she was just dropping off papers. We found Samira standing in the lobby, her mother holding one arm, and uncle gripping the other. I stepped in, heart hammering. "Samira," I said, "we have a lawyer on the line. You don't have to go." You can ask for private room.
Right now.
Say you want to talk to the clerk alone. For a second, I thought she wouldn't do it. Her mouth trembled. Her eyes darted to her mother's face. Then she said it. I want to speak to someone alone.
It was like the air changed.
An officer stepped in. Her uncle yelled. Her mother burst into tears.
But the law was on her side this time.
She walked away. We thought that would be the worst of it. We were wrong. 3 nights later, someone broke into Theodora's house. They didn't take anything. Just turned every drawer inside out, tore the safety guides off the fridge, dumped her houseplants upside down. Left a note on the kitchen table. This is what happens to traitors. We didn't sleep that night. Theodora filed a police report, but we knew how this would go. No signs of forced entry. Could be a random act. And then came the car. We woke up to the smell of smoke. A neighbor was pounding on the door. Theodora's old sedan was in flames, parked just outside the gate. Inside the burned shell were melted plastic dolls. 2 of them. One with red pen marks on the face. One with a paper dress scrawled in Urdu. The message was clear. This wasn't just a warning. It was a declaration of war. For a moment, I almost let fear win. My hand trembled as I scrolled through my contacts, hovering over the name of a shelter across state lines. I thought of leaving, disappearing, starting over again. But I didn't. Instead, I stood on the porch with Theodora, watching the fire crews work, and I said, we build bigger. We get louder. We moved the network underground, more codes, more digital walls, secure drop phones. But we didn't disappear. I gave my first interview, with my face blurred, voice altered. But my words were clear. This is happening in your schools, your neighborhoods. Forced marriage doesn't need a ceremony. It just needs silence. We built toolkits, held secret trainings, started working with nonprofits that finally listened. The threats didn't stop, but we stopped hiding. We didn't fight fire with fire. We fought it with floodlights, with names, with numbers, with truth. And somewhere in that turning point, I stopped being the girl who ran. I became the girl they couldn't scare. The judge didn't even hesitate. The gavel hit wood, and with it came the words I'd been waiting to hear. Permanent protection granted. It was over. Legally, at least. My father's attempts to appeal were denied. Hamad vanished from public view, his business gutted by investigations. I got a new name, a sealed record, and for the first time in my life, I was no one's property. We called it the Freedom Network. It started as a message board, then a digital hub. 1 click, and girls could find legal steps, safe houses, and lawyers who knew how to listen. We trained volunteers, translated materials, created guides disguised as makeup tutorials, prayer journals, recipe books. And it worked. Not all at once. Not easily. But girls kept reaching out. We watched them slip through cracks and find daylight. We saw wedding dresses replaced with school IDs. We saw cousins who used to whisper warnings now standing at the front lines with clipboards and plans. Anna wrote from college. Mayam got her GED. Samira became a counselor for others like her. I still have the notebook. The original one. It's worn and bent, pages softened from years of turning. I keep it in a locked drawer, not out of fear, but out of reverence. That notebook started something no one could stop. Sometimes I let myself feel proud, not for escaping, but for refusing to be the last. And then one night, the phone lit up. A new message. It was short, careful, typed in the Notes app and screenshotted. My aunt says I'm going to visit family, but I know what that means. I don't know what to do. I'm scared.
Can I talk to you?
I took a deep breath, the kind that travels through your whole chest and lands in your bones. And I typed back the only words that ever matter. Tell me everything.